Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is peeling the onion. Our growth and evolution doesn't happen in a linear, necessarily logical way, but more like layers and layers that expose themselves or make themselves available over time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It should be interesting. Before we get started, let's take a minute or two. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. You're just in time for our centering. So let's take a minute to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present, right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to be here with you this morning. So we're talking today about peeling the onion. I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating, that no matter how much work I've done, there's more. And I keep getting surprised by the intensity and almost obviousness of the things that arise. I see this in my clients too, that we work for however long and then something shows up that is even deeper and even more pervasive as an issue. And it's just so amazing to me. And the explanation that I have for that, and I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it's my thesis at the moment, or hypothesis actually, is that we need to get to a place where we're stable enough, where we have enough resources to be able to address those even deeper things. So Rosalind says, you mean there's no end, no arrival point? Thank you. Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Honestly, I was thinking today, because something's come up for me that's really quite huge and interesting that it's showing up at this point. But just thinking, when I was a teenager, I never imagined that I would be at this stage in my sagehood still addressing fundamental issues. I don't think that there's an arrival point. In fact, my thought is that we're always growing. And when we stop growing, that's when we start dying. And it's interesting. I heard something on NPR yesterday. I didn't get to hear the whole segment, but they were talking about a man who had been very vital in his 60s and 70s, and then he got into his 80s, and it was as if he had no more meaning. Like he didn't feel the enthusiasm for life. And they mentioned that it may have been due to his feeling like he learned everything he was going to learn. Like there wasn't more to learn. There wasn't more to grow, perhaps. And this is sort of a caution or an invitation for us to embrace learning as the foundation of our lives, to be ever expanding, ever learning. Anyway, to back up a little bit, the thing that I have been that I just became aware of in a very dramatic way was the remnants of, well, the impact of growing up in an environment where love was very conditional. And it's interesting because I think that we can always develop greater degrees of self-love. I think that we can always become more and more deeply connected to ourselves. But what I was, and I believe that over the years, I have become much more loving, much more accepting of myself and others. And an incident happened with a friend where I felt dismissed. And what I noticed was that I had a knee-jerk reaction of just sort of shutting down, of separating myself, of cutting myself off from my own love for this person. And it's been needling at me because it's not a representation of the way that I want to be or that I am in my true heart. And it's been a very interesting and uncomfortable and transformational exploration to look at, well, what is this about? And this is also on the heels of another incident that harkened back to a lot of trauma in my family. And so I've said over and over, if it's coming up, it's coming up to heal. And that's, I live by that. As much as it might take more than one instance to wake me up to pay attention, to say, hey, there's something here you need to look at. And it's so interesting to have grown up in an environment of very conditional love. I'm noticing that the impact of that was that it made me not trust love. And I've seen that play out in friendships where I've had really close friendships that have dissolved. I've seen it in family where there have been extended periods where communications were cut off. And what's interesting is that we gather evidence to reinforce our perception. So we perceive through a conditioned lens, and then we gather evidence from that conditioned lens to validate and verify and reinforce the lens itself. And so what I noticed is that this history of conditional love allowed me, or in defense of myself around that, what I cultivated was the ability to just shut off. And even with someone that I dearly love, like to protect myself. So we've been talking recently about building walls and building fortification against woundings. And that I'm noticing that that's been something that I had become quite adept with, is to be able to protect myself in this way when someone withdrew themselves, or I perceived that someone withdrew themselves, that I would do the same, and very abruptly. And so I've been doing lots of work on this, but the point of this conversation is to notice that it's not like this is something new, you know. And I see this with clients all the time, that as we go deeper, we go deeper. Like there's no arrival point. It's like this deepening spiral that allows us to address things on an even deeper level. And particularly this notion of love and self-love. If we have always been in a situation where love was conditional, to come to a place of unconditional love for oneself or for life or anything is a challenge, right? It's a re-education. It requires an opening and a healing of the heart. And I wonder, I don't imagine that I'm the only one that has this experience where the defenses around the pain of life have become so integrated, so deeply, deeply integrated, that we don't even notice it. I talked last week about a client who recognized this protection that they had erected for themselves, 4 feet thick metal walls. Good morning, Sue. Welcome. So good to have you joining us this morning. So this person had erected this barricade around themselves to protect themselves and didn't even notice. And so this is the case with this revelation for myself, to recognize, oh wow, as soon as there's an indication that there's going to be, or that there is a withdrawal of love, boom, the walls come down, and I withdraw my love, or have up until recently. So to be able to see this about myself, to be able to see these patterns in yourself, where something shows up in your life and there's discomfort around it, to be able to be willing to recognize it, to notice the story that we have, to notice the upset, and take it on, to be willing to engage with it. Rosalind says, yet we don't do that with animals. I think that's true for most of us, is that we can unconditionally love our animals. Although I know some people who haven't had the best relationship with their animals too. But I tend to agree with you. I don't do that with animals. I can love animals unconditionally. So although, it's interesting because my Jewel cat, who I loved dearly, dearly, and I know she loved me, she would be aloof sometimes, and I would be aloof in exchange. I always loved her, never retracted the love for her, but there would be greater aloofness. I don't know if it was respecting hers or having my own little reaction about it, but yeah. So Sue says we can try to witness the story and the upset. Exactly. Exactly. That's the whole thing. And when we are in an upset, that's a clue. That's a communication. It's a communication from maybe our higher self saying, hey, pay attention. Don't get sucked into the story as the truth. Notice that you have a story, notice that you have the emotion, notice that you have the reaction, and use that as an opportunity to address whatever the underlying issue is. Use it as an opportunity to heal. So we get these communications all the time. When we feel good about something, that's also a wonderful communication and a wonderful opportunity for us to witness what is going on there when we're in the midst of our healing and our evolution. So this peeling of the onion, so to speak, actually a client gave me an even better metaphor than the peeling of the onion, which was the peeling of the artichoke, because as you peel away those leaves, you get closer and closer to the heart, and the heart is the tenderest part. And I think it's a tribute to our growth and evolution to be able to recognize these things that are more prevalent in our lives, that are to recognize the foundational rhythms and beats of our essential selves. That's a an indicator of growth and evolution, where we can be present to the upset and use that, not get sucked into it, not get drowned by it, but use it as a path to our evolution. So Sue says, notice you have the story and the reaction and use it as an opportunity to heal. Work with it. That's really good to know. It's so, I don't know, I think it might have been Rosalind, I'm not sure, who in another segment said guilt-free healing. It might have been no, I don't remember. I'm sorry, but that's what we're talking about, Sue. Is guilt-free healing. What happens is this trigger happens, we get reactive, and we feel miserable usually, and then we get to look at, okay, what's going on? Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? What is the story that's going on? What is it that's calling to be healed and addressed? And so rather than getting wrapped up in a story, judging somebody else, judging yourself, feeling like I'm a terrible person because I reacted in this way or that way, but to use it as an opportunity for growth and awareness. Thank you, Rosalind. It was Gia. Thank you. Guilt-free healing from Gia Jane. And then smell your own pee. Smell your own pee stinks after you get into the meaty stuff. That's a riot. I wouldn't have necessarily come up with that analogy, but yeah, what happens is as we get into the meaty stuff, we act out. I think we all act out on some degree or another. And the opportunity is to recognize it, to make amends, to clean it up afterwards, to clean it up in ourselves first, because that's the first opportunity, right? And that isn't necessarily something that happens like that. It sometimes takes time, and it takes more digging. And the thing is with that, these are probably the deepest wounds, so they might have the deepest pain associated with them. And in order to be able to address them, we need to have some strength and resilience to be able to confront that pain, to be able to allow ourselves to be present to it in order to heal it. Because otherwise it can be so painful that we just can't get beyond the reaction around it. Rawson says, not everyone can smell the scent after eating asparagus or artichoke. You're so funny, Rosalind. That's true. That's true, though. Anyway, very funny. So I know that many people, including myself, have felt like we've revisited the same issues over and over and over again. And what I say is, it's not the same. We're going in a spiral. And we are not the same person addressing that issue at this moment than we were addressing that issue at that moment. And the deepening, the maturity, the healing that we do promotes even greater healing. And it's funny when the most fundamental wounds can still be active, and we get to have different insights, new insights each time we revisit these issues. And come to a place of greater and greater and greater and greater wholeness. So the invitation is, as these things come up, as we become more and more whole, when issues still arise, not to blame or shame or judge ourselves, but to look with curiosity and compassion, and to recognize that if it's coming up to heal, and that we are capable of that new level of healing in the moment that these things arise. And so let's peel the artichoke or peel the onion and step into our greater and greater wholeness with curiosity and humility and compassion. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to like, follow, and share. Enlightened World Network, and myself. The links are in the description. Sue says we're capable of healing when these things arise. We are. We are. As always, it is my pleasure and great privilege to spend these mornings together, musing on what it is to be human. So until next time, so much love to you.